The cruise destinations you should reconsider visiting might surprise you. Certain popular spots can quickly become overwhelming experiences. Through extensive cruising experience, I've observed how particular ports consistently create identical issues for well-meaning travelers who lack proper information. In the coming moments, you'll discover which destinations present the greatest challenges with scams, aggressive selling tactics, and security concerns, along with avoidance strategies. We'll begin our countdown starting at 15 and work toward 1. The top-ranked port contains a pitfall that catches most cruise travelers unaware. Position 15. Grand Turk. Grand Turk appears to be a risk-free destination. Pristine waters, uncomplicated beach activities, and a port designed for convenience. The challenge emerges when circumstances deviate from your itinerary. Limited alternative solutions exist on this island, particularly when you require immediate assistance, rapid transportation, or sudden itinerary modifications. Grand Turk's cruise operations haven't always proceeded smoothly. Health-related concerns connected to land visits near the cruise facility led to its closure and port call cancellations in 2013. Turks and Caicos officials even denied boarding to a cruise vessel following reports of an illness outbreak aboard in 2025. When a destination can change this dramatically, your relaxed beach excursion can quickly transform into disorder. Consider the broader context. Turks and Caicos travel warnings recommend heightened vigilance due to criminal activity, noting that law enforcement capabilities may be restricted. The concern here isn't a single sensational event. It's the gradual anxiety of feeling trapped. Should you sustain an injury, lose track of your schedule, or select unreliable transportation, remoteness becomes your adversary. Maintain simplicity, remain near the port, reject last-minute transportation arrangements, and create ample cushion time for ship return. Position 14. Amber Cove, Dominican Republic. Amber Cove creates an impression of protected surroundings. Disembarking leads you directly into a secured resort-style facility featuring security personnel, retail outlets, and swimming facilities, where numerous visitors choose to spend their entire visit. Danger begins when you approach it casually like a typical municipality where spontaneous exploration seems viable. The U.S. State Department has assigned the Dominican Republic a Level 2 advisory. Criminal activity poses concerns, even in tourist-frequented locations, though this doesn't guarantee problematic encounters. It suggests avoiding becoming an obvious target, particularly when displaying mobile devices, accessories, or recognizable ship identification. Puerto Plata represents the closest urban center, where most difficulties originate with travel services. A seemingly friendly transportation provider presents an attractive rate. You enter the vehicle, then the cost changes or the journey becomes an unwanted shopping excursion. Water-related hazards present another genuine danger. Severe weather caused a vessel carrying 12 individuals to capsize north of Puerto Plata in 2023, requiring a cruise ship to assist in passenger rescue. This destination demands that planning equals safety. Reserve established tours. Confirm pricing before departure and allow early return time. Position 13. Cozumel, Mexico. Cozumel generates debate because the island itself isn't problematic. Its popularity as a cruise destination is well earned. The difficulty arises during the initial 60 minutes following disembarkation when the port atmosphere can sour your disposition before activities truly commence. This location features the vendor gauntlet experience. Certain cruisers report persistent following and continuous sales pitches immediately upon entering the shopping corridors adjacent to the dock. Scams typically involve minor deceptions. A complimentary tour that requires payment. An accessory or sample placed in your hands that unexpectedly carries a price tag. Transportation or guide services quoting one amount then modifying it after commitment. The anxiety factor involves separation and rushing. You pause to dispute charges. Your companions continue forward, leaving you isolated, agitated, and making choices you'd reject at home. Cozumel also serves as a reminder that tourist transportation can fail rapidly. A ferry explosion on the Cozumel route injured over 25 individuals in 2018. Visit Cozumel. Simply visit with preparation. Move purposefully. Decline once, then proceed directly to your reservation. If these initial 3 seemed reasonable, remain alert because upcoming ports feature intensified pressure, more aggressive scams, and venturing beyond the entrance can become an irreversible error. Position 12. Costa Maya. Costa Maya resembles an effortless day. Vibrant retail spaces, an attractive compact village, and everything appears managed. That's the deception. It's constructed to maintain your spending within the controlled area because straying into Mahawal independently places you in an authentic community with genuine challenges. An afternoon shootout occurred on the Mahawal boardwalk during March 2025 throughout a law enforcement action involving gunfire exchange and a suspect fatality. This isn't cruise-related melodrama. That's an ordinary weekday deteriorating into disorder within the identical location people visit for casual dining and shopping. This all occurs in Quintana Roo, where the U.S. State Department cautions that rival gang shootings have harmed and killed innocent observers, including within tourist zones. It specifically instructs travelers to remain in illuminated pedestrian thoroughfares and tourist districts and exercise additional awareness following sunset. Costa Maya isn't inherently dangerous, but it represents the type of destination where one spontaneous choice, like accepting an unknown taxi or straying beyond the tourist corridor, can transform an uncomplicated day into a stressful experience rapidly. Position 11. Montego Bay, Jamaica. Montego Bay epitomizes a port that can seem acceptable until circumstances suddenly change. Jamaica's present U.S. travel advisory stands at Level 3, offering frank explanations, mentioning that armed theft and sexual violence occur frequently. The embassy regularly receives incident reports, including from resort guests, and visitors describe delayed and inadequate responses to severe incidents. For travelers over 50, that detail holds greatest significance. Not merely the criminal acts themselves, but the aftermath when assistance becomes necessary. Montego Bay also sustained substantial damage from Hurricane Melissa during late October 2025, with the advisory cautioning that Montego Bay numbered among regions in various recovery phases and that accommodations, transportation alternatives, and amenities may remain limited pending restoration completion. That's how the perfect combination of confusion, reduced reliable choices, and increased pressure from individuals attempting to involve you in their schemes materializes. This isn't the destination for improvisation, particularly when you're not participating in an organized excursion and depending on unfamiliar people for navigation, transportation, or spontaneous arrangements. Position 10. Roatan, Honduras, Mahogany Bay. Mahogany Bay can deceive you into false confidence because the cruise zone appears so orderly and enclosed. However, Honduras carries a Level 3 designation from the U.S. State Department due to criminal activity, warning that violent offenses like armed theft and abduction remain prevalent with specific guidance to avoid nighttime walking or driving and not physically opposing robbery attempts. It additionally highlights that while the Bay Islands possess more concentrated resources and superior policing, criminal activity still occurs commonly there. Canada's travel guidance becomes even more precise for cruise passengers. It states the Bay Islands are typically safe, but mentions foreigners have suffered assaults on beaches primarily during nighttime hours. It directly recommends that if you're docking in Roatan and disembarking, you should contemplate reserving a tour through a trustworthy company to prevent becoming a scam victim. That reveals everything about the risk pattern here. Inside the cruise protected zone, you feel relaxed. Beyond that boundary, the incorrect walk, the wrong beach at the inappropriate time, or the wrong seemingly helpful individual can transform your day into a difficulty you cannot readily resolve. If this information is already changing your perspective on port visits, please like and subscribe to support this content. If these three already seem somewhat too concerning, the following ones are where the port experience transitions from annoying to genuinely predatory. Position 9. Freeport, Bahamas. Freeport represents the port that deceives through tedium, and tedium is where intelligent people become reckless. The docking area feels commercial, the walk is uncomfortable, and the quickest solution for salvaging the day is accepting the first taxi that signals you. That's where danger initiates. Australian travel guidance states armed theft, burglaries, purse snatching, robbery, fraud, and sexual violence are prevalent offenses against travelers in Freeport and Nassau, including within cruise terminals and resort properties. Canada's travel recommendations are equally straightforward, enumerating armed theft, fraud, robbery, and sexual assaults among the most frequent offenses against travelers in Nassau and Freeport. The U.S. State Department also cautions violent offenses like armed theft and sexual assaults can happen throughout the Bahamas. Here's the typical cruise day progression. You disembark without preparation. A driver proposes a brief circuit and now you're negotiating while in motion, not when you're composed. If you hesitate, the pressure intensifies. If you consent, the price can alter and the diversion becomes another person's shopping agenda. The most secure approach in Freeport is straightforward. Pre-reserve a reputable excursion or make it a shipboard day because improvising is what transforms this port into a problem. Position 8. Belize City, Belize. Belize City is where the day can deteriorate before it truly starts because you're not docking directly, you're using tender boats. That means you're already operating on a deadline dealing with small watercraft, queues, heat, and masses of people. That combination is precisely where con artists and aggressive sellers flourish. The U.S. State Department assigns Belize City Level 3 status for reconsidering travel and advises U.S. citizens should avoid traveling there, noting that much of Belize's violent criminal activity concentrates on the south side and frequently involves gangs. Canada extends further and instructs travelers to avoid non-essential travel to Southside Police Belize City due to gang and narcotics-related violence, including homicides and shootings. This doesn't mean harm awaits you immediately upon landing. It means if something does occur, you don't want to be resolving it alone in a location you didn't prepare for while the tender timetable continues advancing. The anxiety here isn't one dramatic incident. It's the gradual exhaustion of being surrounded, getting pressured into a taxi you didn't investigate, and losing command of your schedule. If you go ashore, go with an organized tour. Keep valuables to a minimum, remain in a group, and return early. Position 7. Colón, Panama. Colón is the type of port where the vessel feels like the most secure location in view, and that alone serves as a warning. The city can appear deteriorated. The streets can feel vacant in a manner that makes you conspicuous. That taxi congregation can feel more like pressure than service. Canada's travel guidance lists Colón Province as a high criminal activity area where travelers should exercise a high degree of vigilance. The U.S. State Department also recommends Level 2 exercise increased caution in Panama due to criminal activity and the potential for civil disturbance. The second element matters more than people acknowledge. Panama experienced major demonstrations and violence linked to pension modifications in 2025 with roadblocks and the government temporarily suspending certain constitutional protections in one province as unrest grew. If you're on an excursion and the roadway gets obstructed, you are the one watching the clock, not the driver, and the vessel doesn't delay because traffic became complicated. Approach Colón like a controlled transit point, not a location for exploration. Reserve a reputable tour. Remain with your party. Keep your mobile device concealed and establish an early return window sufficient to withstand delays. Position 6. La Romana, Dominican Republic. La Romana is the type of port that feels tranquil, which is precisely why it can surprise you. When a port is more dispersed and less pedestrian-friendly, you end up relying on transportation, and that's where the stress begins. The U.S. State Department cautions that violent criminal activity is a concern throughout the Dominican Republic, including theft and sexual violence, even if your day appears peaceful on the surface. The UK government cautions about thieves on motorcycles stealing bags and valuables from pedestrians, and even seizing items through vehicle windows at traffic signals. Australia's Smart Traveller also mentions travelers have been robbed in taxis and private vehicles, including situations where vehicles are compelled to stop. It's not only criminal activity. Shore excursions can go wrong rapidly. An excursion catamaran transporting approximately 50 cruise passengers capsized in the Dominican Republic during November 2025, and everyone required rescue. That's why this isn't a spontaneous port. Reserve reputable transportation. Keep valuables inconspicuous and treat every independent proposition like a sales presentation, not assistance. Position 5. Nassau, Bahamas. Nassau is the ideal port for false security. The new cruise facility appears refined. The initial minutes feel comfortable, and then you step outside and the pressure arrives. The Bahamas is Level 2 on the U.S. State Department system due to criminal activity, and it explicitly cautions that violent offenses like armed theft and sexual assaults can happen throughout. There's also a highly specific trap in Nassau that older cruisers encounter: the quick recreational rentals. Reporting surrounding the advisory emphasizes concerns about inadequately regulated watercraft and jet skis, including injuries and even reports of sexual assaults involving operators. So, the danger is not only a questionable street, it can be the activity you assumed was most secure because it appeared tourist-oriented. Then there's the mistake that damages trips differently. A 69-year-old cruise passenger was detained in Nassau for possessing a firearm and ammunition during December 2025 and ended up incarcerated before resolution. Nassau is a port where minor errors can become major consequences rapidly. Position 4. St. Lucia. St. Lucia is where the danger is understated because the island itself is gorgeous and the U.S. advisory level is minimal. But cruise days occur in crowded, disorderly small areas. And that's where minor criminal activity thrives. Police in Castries detained a man accused of stealing a chain from a cruise ship passenger around noon during March 2024. That's the concerning scenario for a relaxed port day. Not because it's violent, because it's swift, public, and difficult to prevent once it initiates. Canada's travel advice also mentions violent criminal activity has risen over the past year, particularly in Vieux Fort, and lists incidents including thefts and gang-related violence. You don't have to fear St. Lucia, but you do have to respect it. Keep accessories and phones hidden. Avoid exploring side streets and select a prearranged driver or tour so you're not negotiating under pressure in a busy port area. Position 3. Bridgetown, Barbados. Now we're approaching the top 3. Bridgetown is a port that appears pleasant, then penalizes anyone who approaches it like a carefree walk. 2 British cruise passengers were shot during a daytime robbery while their vessel was in port at Bridgetown during March 2013. That's the type of incident that remains in your memory for years because it occurs in moments and it can happen while you believe you're doing the secure thing, just walking back. Barbados is level 1 on the U.S. travel advisory scale, but the official country information still mentions crimes of opportunity like theft and break-ins, and that serious offenses such as robbery and shootings do occasionally happen. OSAC also evaluates Bridgetown as a high-threat location for criminal activity affecting official U.S. government interests. Your best protection is mundane discipline. Remain in pairs, keep phones concealed, carry only minimal cash, and don't separate into quiet side streets. If you require transportation, use a reputable tour or prearranged taxi, and establish time so you never have to hurry. Position 2. Ocho Rios, Jamaica. Our runner-up, Ocho Rios, is where a typical port day can start resembling a pressure examination. You disembark and suddenly it's propositions from every direction. Tours, taxis, souvenirs. Just look, just one moment and the crowd keeps advancing. Jamaica's U.S. travel advisory is level 3, and it cautions that armed theft and sexual assaults are prevalent. Additionally, visitors sometimes report delayed or inadequate responses to serious incidents. This isn't merely online complaints. A Jamaica Observer report described taxi operators and craft vendors being identified for a high level of harassment in Ocho Rios. Jamaica's tourism agency has also discussed measures to reduce visitor harassment, including strategic police and no vending signs in Ocho Rios. The anxiety factor is what that pressure does to your judgment. You rush, you consent, you follow, and now you're in another person's plan. Do this port with an organized excursion. Keep responses brief. Don't pause in bottlenecks. And if you feel surrounded, enter a staffed shop. Breathe and reset. Position 1. Scarborough, Tobago. Scarborough ranks at number 1 because it combines a small, rapidly moving cruise terminal with a broader risk landscape that can change overnight. The Scarborough Cruise Terminal is compact and you can walk into town within moments, which means you transition from ship security to street choices very rapidly. Trinidad and Tobago is level 3 on the U.S. department scale due to serious criminal activity risks with additional concerns including abduction. Australia notes the government proclaimed a state of emergency during July 2025 due to elevated criminal activity which can bring roadblocks and disruptions. During emergency periods, cruise visits to Tobago have been cancelled. Canada also cautions petty criminal activity like pickpocketing and purse snatching occurs, including theft at traffic signals and in slow traffic, and tourists do get targeted occasionally. A Tobago man was detained in 2020 for allegedly robbing 2 cruise ship passengers in Scarborough. Even tour guides have complained publicly about port logistics, which tells you how rapidly things can become problematic. Pre-book, keep cash minimal, set an all-aboard alarm, and be early. If this helped, give the video a like and subscribe because we share clear, practical cruise guidance that helps you stay safe, avoid costly mistakes, and actually enjoy your port days instead of worrying through them. Just to be fair, this list isn't suggesting you should never visit these places. Many of them have genuine advantages: beautiful water, excellent excursions, unforgettable scenery. The key is how you approach them. Remain in well-traveled tourist areas, avoid aimless wandering, and book reputable excursions or trusted transport so you're not making risky decisions under pressure. Now, Tell me in the comments which port felt most uncomfortable to you so other cruisers know what to watch for.